And you are here for SCW, the wrestling channel, here on youtube.com. You may be listening on podcast form as well. Thank you for watching us here today. This is This Week in Wrestling, episode 8. Going to be talking all the big, important news, gossip, and talking points in wrestling over the last 7 days. I'm joined by George Jones in the hot seat with me. George, how are you doing this Friday afternoon?
Very well. How about yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, really good, thank you. It's good to do another one of these podcast forms once again, as always. And thank you for everyone that's, of course, supporting the channel, as always. Please share with a friend, let them know about SCW. We'd love to grow the channel, as we'd like to, as always. But we have got lots of things to talk about today, including Impact Wrestling. We're going to be kicking off with them. We're going to be talking WWE, AEW, NXT as well. So lots of things to dive into. Some debuts for companies, new champions. We've even got to touch over a bit of a pay-per-view from last weekend as well, of course, AEW's All Out. But we start off with a little bit of sad news. Unfortunately, the passing we've learned of Barry Scott, who is an iconic voice for Impact Wrestling over many, many years. He's passed away at the age of 65. Impact Wrestling, of course, have released a statement on Twitter saying they're very saddened by their passing. We echo those sentiments as well here at SCW. Very sad. And his most recent work as well was the voiceover work for Moose, only just this past Slammiversary. So recent as well, some of the work he's done with Impact Wrestling. So a great loss, and he will be missed. And of course, rest in peace, Barry Scott. But we've got lots of things to cover as we move into topics of WWE. And we've got, of course, Hell in a Cell. The date has been announced. It's been changed as of this afternoon. It was scheduled for November the 1st. It's now moved to October 25th. It feels like it's a nice change to have it to October. It feels like it's got that Halloween feel like it usually does.
Yeah, definitely. I think that plays really well on the Halloween theme. But interested to see what they do. And interesting enough, it's one day after Bound for Glory, so that weekend we're gonna have a lot of wrestling. So that's good. And UFC.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be a jam-packed weekend. So, yeah, cancel your plans, everybody, right now. It doesn't seem like it's a need to be doing anything else at that point. But speaking of Bound for Glory, by the way, I've done a predicted match card, which is available on the YouTube channel right now. Of course, stick around. We've got the podcast first. Don't need to go anywhere just yet. But once we've finished here, go and check out that video as well. Quite a few fun matches I like to think has been put together. And I expect a few of them probably will be announced later on down the line. But we're speaking with WWE. We've just mentioned Hell in a Cell. There's some Royal Rumble plans as well that have been spoken about in the last sort of 24 hours or so. WrestleVote's very reliable when it comes in the wrestling world. They have actually come out and said that WWE are going to be monitoring what's going to be going on with the NBA and the NHL over the winter months, with the idea of having fans in and want to hopefully have fans back in time for the Royal Rumble. Of course, they want fans back as soon as possible, but it feels like a big event like the Royal Rumble. They feel that it would be very good to have them back by that point. For me, it feels sensible, but also feels like that maybe suggests that we will have the Amway Centre and the Thunderdome perhaps for the rest of the year. Would you agree with that, George?
I agree with your points. I think that's a good idea. I think WWE definitely shouldn't rush into getting fans back. Although the Royal Rumble with fans is that much better, but I'm looking forward to it either way. I think either way we're going to get a Royal Rumble. Probably the Amway Centre is probably a sensible location, but yeah, hopefully it's done right. That's for sure.
Absolutely. But the thing is, though, with the fans actually being on those screens and stuff, I mean, providing, of course, people can behave themselves, usually with the Royal Rumble, we get those nice surprises, the returns, these shocking moments. You still could get that energy through, those people on those monitors, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. I guess you could, particularly when you're getting stuff like people like Edge come back like they did last year, and the reaction, the crowd and stuff. I think you have to see that. But yeah, never know. Hopefully by then we'll have fans back, I'm hoping. I'm really thinking WWE want to get some money back as soon as possible from the fans. So particularly as we go towards WrestleMania season, I really don't want to see WrestleMania this year without no fans. I think it's it's horrible, really.
Absolutely, of course. I mean, the sooner we can get fans back, the better. And we just have to hope with everything that's going on that we can go to that direction. But we've been speaking about WWE pay-per-views more or less to kick things off. And, well, I mean, Clash of Champions is the next WWE pay-per-view. And, George, you've got a few matches that look to be expected to be added to that card. So, I mean, we know already we've got two matches with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. And I believe Roman Reigns and Jey Uso has been announced as well. Those are the championship matches. What other matches could we expect?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get a triple threat following on from tonight's SmackDown. Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn, which to me sounds absolutely amazing. I think that'll be a fantastic match. What's your thoughts on that match, Steve?
I really like it. I mean, of course, all three seem to be, together at the moment, and we've got the IC title match this evening on SmackDown. It'd be interesting to see how they can, link that to the triple threat. Maybe Sami Zayn maybe interferes this evening, which makes that triple threat. I ultimately want to see Zayn versus Hardy. Of course, the two Intercontinental Championship belts. I don't know how you feel about this, but I kind of get that 1994 feeling of when Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon had their WrestleMania ladder match. I kind of want to see it go to that kind of way. I mean, I know it's kind of a copy and paste storyline, but I think it'd be really good and it could be utilised really well with Hardy and Zayn. Would you like to see that in the future?
I really like nostalgia. Spot on. I really agree with that point. I think I'd love to see that, particularly with two Intercontinental title belts. I think that would make it interesting, nothing like the past. But also looking at kind of other matches as well. Potentially we're going to get Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews again. I'm not too excited about that. What's your thoughts on that match?
Well, we said copy and paste, didn't we? But this one's more recent. So, I mean, we're not necessarily in urgent need to see this match again. But I guess Apollo, probably has a rematch clause in some format. So, maybe get this match out of the way and we can move Bobby Lashley on to maybe a more meaningful program, maybe like someone like Keith Lee.
Yeah, and we've also got a potential Nakamura and Cesaro versus Heavy Machinery feud as well that may happen, or a match that may happen. What's your thoughts on that tag match?
Interesting, especially as they've got the Champions versus Champions match going on Raw this week, coming up with the Street Profits. So I was hoping that would be something that might merge the tag titles. But Heavy Machinery are long overdue a tag team championship match, I feel, because, I mean, they were really over before we, went into this pandemic with the fan base that was in. So it'd be interesting to see if WWE pulls the trigger, puts the belts on them, or if maybe they, could be moving in the draft. We'll have to wait and see. I think that that will tell a lot when we see the match at Clash.
Yep, and the last kind of two matches we've got the tag team titles of the women, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax versus the Riot Squad. What's your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, this one seems kind of put together, doesn't it? I mean, as much as I like the Riot Squad, it doesn't seem believable for them to win this match at this stage unless we see a real implosion with Baszler and Jax. I mean, what are your thoughts on that tandem so far?
Yeah, I'm not really. I really think you're going to have to go with the current champions. Really, I think they've just got the belt. I think the long-term plan probably is to get Shayna Baszler as a singles wrestler. It's okay. It's something different. It's certainly helped elevate the Bayley versus Sasha feud, which is what I wanted to see. But no, they're an okay tag team. I think they're quite interesting working together. I think they've got quite good styles together. Do you rate them as a tag team so far?
Well, I mean, they've done the job so far, haven't they? But I mean, I didn't like their booking on Monday Night Raw. We will touch more on Raw later in the podcast. But I mean, the basis of how, they just kind of was a bit strange. They're putting these handicap matches and they were the heels and they were one that was, it just didn't seem very well put together, that in my opinion. But as a team, it seems a bit thrown together, a bit last minute, as a lot of things currently are in WWE, unfortunately. But at the same time, I do think to myself that, we've got different people with the championships. We've got different people on our TV screens. Now, the Riot Squad have been brought into the picture as well. Those are people that we haven't seen on pay-per-views, minus when we look at, obviously, the last one with Payback. We hadn't seen any of these on pay-per-view for a while. So it's good to see that we're getting fresh faces and fresh matchups. So hopefully, it's positive ways going forward.
Yeah, and the last one, this is probably a long shot. This isn't official, but this is what I think may happen based on Raw. Kevin Owens and Dabba-Kato maybe look like they're going to have a match as well, which interesting, isn't it? I think Dabba-Kato could get a first pay-per-view win, actually, which would be quite a big win for him if he does.
It'd be interesting if they did throw that together. Of course, Dabba-Kato spent a lot of time in Raw Underground. I mean, would that be an underground match? Would it be something where Kato would come out of that environment? And of course, if it being Clash of Champions, of course, it's not a championship match. So there's lots of questions that would come with it. I mean, would that introduce maybe an underground championship at some point? I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. It would be great to see Dabba-Kato get some sort of form of a push, really, because he's kind of seemed like the star, if you want a breakout star, someone we didn't know beforehand. He's kind of that guy in the Raw Underground who really could push on from this. And if someone's going to come out of any credibility, because as we know on this podcast, I'm not a fan of Raw Underground, but Dabba-Kato,
not alone.
Dabba-Kato is someone that I think can come out with quite a bit of credibility.
Definitely. I think it's a strange match considering the whole Kevin Owens, Aleister Black feud that's kind of building, but we'll see if that happens. That's only just a rumour, so to speak. But they're the matches we have for Clash of Champions so far that are extra.
Absolutely interesting stuff indeed. And of course, notably, we didn't mention Bayley and Sasha Banks there, which of course we'll touch on now SmackDown. Of course, we mainly touch on what's going on this week, but Bayley will be explaining her actions. Now, last week's actions where she actually beat up Sasha Banks and she, did the turn. Apparently, it's WWE's most viewed, segment in months. Apparently over 2.3 million people have viewed this. So there seems to be a lot of interest here. And I think it's also, you know, a pat on the back for great long-term storytelling here. I mean, you look at these, this has been building for well over probably, you know, 8 or 9 months, perhaps even a year when you look at things in the early parts of this storyline. I think it's really good to see that WWE have actually got the rewards of long-term booking here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the best turns of the year. I think it was a great wow moment. It certainly followed up the whole Roman Reigns film we had the week before. I think for me, this was done to perfection. Bayley does look like the baddest person on the roster, so to speak, now, which is really, really good. And you're really getting sympathy for Sasha Banks, which I think was clever. But yeah, I really, really like it. So I wonder how long this is going to write Sasha Banks out for. Really, if they were clever, they could write her out for probably like at least 2 or 3 months now. But I just think credit to Bayley, really. I think it was a really good way. And the fact we saw her kind of turn heel, I think it even further more to the bad side. I really enjoyed that. I think it really cements her as the women's champion. I think she clearly is the person to hate at the moment, which is great.
Absolutely. She's done her job, hasn't she? She's hated, she's the heel. And Bayley just feels like she's just evolved so much from that hugger character, that babyface, squeaky clean that we saw years ago. Now she's really that sort of grown-up, badass woman who, you know, will even take out her friends to keep herself to the top. And I really like the fact how they've evolved with Bayley's character over the last 12 months. And I mean, you look now with
yeah, I'd agree with you. 100%. I think no, that's all right. I think the thing with it that's really done, which they've done really well, is the way they've done it so slow, and it's not been done in a month. But if they're clever, they would delay this. Like for me, I would delay it to kind of in the Royal Rumble. I would have Sasha Banks come back then, and then this is a WrestleMania match for me. I think this could go on to WrestleMania, and I think the big payoff has to be at WrestleMania, really, because this is definitely one of the best things in WWE at the moment. This kind of feud for me.
Absolutely. I mean, just as going to say that Sasha Banks, like you said, she's got that sympathy now. She has that babyface feeling. She can almost go back to that momentum she had back in 2016, where so many people were behind her, and hopefully she can push it and take it to where she's levels of like even a Becky Lynch. I mean, there is potential with this match, with so much interest in it, that this could be a real high-profile WrestleMania match if, like you said, if they're smart enough and can leave it for that long. I don't have faith that they will leave it that long, but if they were to, I really do think that whenever this match happens, it could be a main event. I really think that they're doing that good of a job with these two ladies. Could you see these two as a potential main event?
Yeah, I could see it being potentially the main event of Revolution, or Evolution, shall we say, when it happens. Yeah, definitely. I think these two are credible. I think these two both have had such a presence on both Raw and SmackDown this year, particularly in the sort of without the fans. I think it's you look forward to seeing them every week, and I'm not tired of this app, which is really, really good. And I think they pulled the trigger at the right time as well, which I think credit to WWE. It was really well done.
Absolutely, indeed. And we speak of involvement of characters as well in the women's division. And we've got kind of a little bit of a spoiler coming up. But we're saying spoiler, it's current plans in WWE. And when it's current plans, you know that means subject to change. So maybe take it with a pinch of salt. Maybe you can stick around for this. But if you don't want to know, with the person, the background segment we had on SmackDown last week, the female that was in heels that we have no idea who it is, well, I'm about to give you a report now. So you might want to skip ahead 1 or 2 minutes. But now there were reports coming out saying with Ringside News that it was meant to be Chelsea Green originally. There have been since changes, and this is a Ringside News exclusive apparently, suggesting now that the current plans are that it's not going to be Chelsea Green at all, which is very interesting indeed. In fact, it's going to be someone different. And interestingly enough, it's not going to be a fresh face. They're going to take someone within their current roster and refresh their gimmick. So it's quite nice. They're actually evolving a character that they've got in WWE to bring that forward. And the person apparently currently planned to be in that role is none other than Carmella. What are your thoughts with this as Carmella that could be that person? It'd be a great refreshment of her character after being on the roster for many years.
It's certainly something different. I think I'd be interested to see what the whole element and what the background is to it. I think her as a heel will work far better than her trying to be a babyface. So I'm a fan of it. I'm just interested to see what the actual meaning is behind it, really. Why they've gone for this whole heels glamour type thing. Whether it's where it's going to lead, really, more than anything.
Absolutely, indeed. It's good to see where it's going to go. And I think what's kind of a nice little link to this as well is, of course, Carmella's, slogan, she's been, fabulous the whole time. That's usually her thing. And this gimmick kind of feels like a fabulous kind of thing, kind of flash. Maybe it's a nice little tweak on that, sort of, that line, and we can see where it's going to be going forward. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be. But like you say, we need a bit of substance with it. So far, we've just seen heels backstage. We've not seen anything more. But of course, it brings excitement. People don't know. There's mystery. Hopefully, we're going to find out more what's going to go on in the coming weeks. And we'll have to say, take it with a pinch of salt, but Carmella apparently is the current plan? It's good to see that some things in WWE are planned, apparently. But keeping on SmackDown as well, one more thing this week as well that we know on the preview coming up is Bray Wyatt expecting a new friend in the Firefly Funhouse. Now, I know that you enjoy a good Firefly Funhouse, George. Who are you expecting to be coming in there this week as the new friend?
I think the obvious one would be Alexa Bliss, but what's quite interesting is WWE have registered a new trademark for which we may believe may be the Firefly Funhouse related. The trademark's called Wobbly Walrus. Doesn't that sound like a Bray Wyatt puppet? What's your thoughts of this potential Wobbly Walrus character that may be coming into the Funhouse?
Well, it does take me by surprise, I must admit. I was hoping for a superstar in some format, but it could be interesting in what they do with this. I mean, of course, maybe it adds a different dynamic to and freshens up the Firefly Funhouse. I must admit myself personally, I do find those segments a bit more stale than what I did, and maybe something of a change of a character, whether it's a puppet or a superstar, maybe it does freshen things up. Of course, like yourself, I would have hoped it'd been like an Alexa Bliss or even a Nikki Cross, managing to find a way in there in some format, because superstars now seem to find their way there. It would be interesting to see if something like that was to happen. But what are your thoughts on the Walrus?
Yeah, I'm not too excited. I think the way you've been building it, it's got to be Alexa Bliss, really. I think you've got to pay off that storyline now. For me, the Fiend's kind of in the periphery doing nothing at the moment since obviously losing the belt the last show, really. I think for me, you've got to do Alexa Bliss now. She's the obvious one, really. And I'd like to see her in there as a character, not just a puppet, because we've had puppets now for kind of like a year and a half, and there's been no real payoff to that storyline. So they've got to start paying off the puppets and what the meanings really are, what the point of them is. Or I think they're going to have to do some of Alexa Bliss, really. I think it's if it's not Alexa Bliss, I'm going to be kind of a bit disappointed, really.
Yeah, I think that's actually spot on with a lot of the points you make there. I mean, the thing is, like you said, there's been no real payoff to those. And I mean, there's always been links with these puppets. If it's going to bring an Abigail, maybe some form of stable. And there's always been those links and teasers and stuff like that in the past. And it would be good to see some form of payoff of what these things actually represent and mean. I mean, of course, they have their wackiness, they have their fun. But as I said, I'm starting to find the Firefly Funhouse kind of stale. So I would like to see something to freshen up the White gimmick of what's going on, just to keep it fresh and keep it relevant, because he is an attraction. He's something that stands out, but stands out without doing anything only goes so far. I want to see more substance with what's going on with this Fiend character going forward. And I want to see as well, we say with the Alexa Bliss payoff as well, why isn't he chasing Roman? He should be after Roman at this point, shouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I think it doesn't really make sense. You look at what kind of it, obviously Fiend didn't get pinned for the belt, so for me they're saving that match, or they don't want to do it yet, which is a bit odd. But yeah, for me the Fiend is on very close to being sort of getting a bit boring, really. I don't want to say that, but they need to do something to freshen him up. His matches haven't been that great this year. I think there's been some great promos and great moments, but the series with Braun was a struggle to watch in parts. So I think they need to do something with him. I think the way you do that is, I think for me, it looks like they were going to turn him babyface. That's kind of the obvious thing, but I think a babyface Fiend doesn't really work for me. So he needs to be a heel, and they need to give him kind of some sort of stable members. As I said earlier, you've had these puppets even in the Vignettes before he came back, and yet we've not paid any of it off. So let's start paying it off, please. Really, I'd like to see WWE pay it off.
Absolutely. I want to see some payoff, and I want to see some more, shall we say, quality in Wyatt's matches, especially as the Fiend. There's so much no-selling going off a lot of the time, and it feels like we're starting to see the Fiend sell a little bit in more recent matches. And I think for me, if you have him more selling off as if he's someone like a Mankind kind of character going forward, I think that would be a much beneficial side of him. And maybe that's what they're going to try and do with this babyface side. Maybe it's going to end up like a Mankind was back in the Attitude Era when he turned from heel to face, shall we say. And I mean, that managed to work with Mankind back in the day, so maybe they'll find a way to make it work with the Fiend. We'll have to wait and see as and when that plays out. But we're going to talk as well now. Because what we do is with these shows, if you're a first-time viewer on these things, we tend to try and take what's current and we work our way backwards. So what would next be through the wrestling week would be Dynamite. And of course, it was a Dynamite show this week, but of course, that came off the back of a pay-per-view, which we've not had the chance to talk about either yet. So we first will start with just talking briefly our thoughts with the All Out pay-per-view, of what we felt overall with the show, and then we're going to dive into Dynamite straight afterwards. So, George, first off, give us your thoughts of what you felt with the AEW's All Out pay-per-view.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It was very long, unfortunately, but I thought the matches themselves were decent. A couple of horrible moments, particularly the Sammy Guevara, Matt Hardy incident, and the whole Darby Allin getting powerbombed in a bag. I felt that was a bit uncomfortable to watch, but They did what they did, but for me, the show just didn't really connect. I don't know. It just seemed to be kind of missing a little bit for some reason, which is a shame. Usually, AEW pay-per-views are a great watch, really, but it just didn't really work for me, this show. There was some fantastic moments, though. Credit to the women, though. The women's match between Thunder Rosa and Hikaya Shirida was fantastic, really. I thought that was probably match of the night.
Absolutely. I thought the ladies stole the show, and Thunder Rosa, thankfully, is going to be appearing once again in AEW this week. Coming up, actually, she's been signed to defend her NWA Women's Championship, which is very interesting. It's Eva Lee, so I'm very excited to see what she's going to bring to the table. And apparently, Thunder Rosa, her details of her working relationship with AEW, she's still with NWA, but she does currently work on a pay per appearance basis. So she's not got like a long-term contract with them or anything, but it would be interesting to see. I'm very excited. I'm very happy Thunder Rosa is going to be coming back in. Big shout outs, by the way. She does follow us on Instagram, so thank you, Thunder Rosa, for the follow, by the way. We do appreciate that greatly. I think she's brought a lot into AEW in such a quick space of time. Like you said, her match with Shida I thought was a real standout, and it came as well straight after that Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara moment as well, which was really, I felt really took the air out of the show. I felt that was the turning point. I mean, like you said, it was a long show, and I think that we've kind of got used to watching WWE learn from the lesson and do shorter shows. There seemed to be a fashion, I feel like, in the last few years where people were going after like New Japan's like longer show strategy, and now I think that people realize that people get exhausted from it and they're starting to go back shorter. Does AEW need to start maybe just trimming one or two matches out, using what could be featured on Dynamite? Let's take, for example, the Dark Order's 8-man tag match could have been on Dynamite. You look at the tooth and nail match, that could have been on Dynamite. Would you turn and say, if you take 2 or 3 matches out, that show would have been 3 hours long? And do you think that would have been a much easier sitting for people to view at home?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I think the trouble is, by the time you got to the main event, which was obviously Moxley and MJF, the fans, even sort of in the attendance, seem to be bereft of any energy, and you're really thinking, oh God, it's another match, which it should never be like that, particularly for a main event that's been built really well.
Absolutely. Apparently, as well, the temperature was so hot as well amongst AEW, and that explained as well that the ring ropes apparently were so wet that Matt Sardell actually had a horror show himself. Actually, his first match was first move was horribly botched when he came in the Casino Battle Royal, but thankfully he wasn't hurt and was able to continue going forward. But I mean, I just kind of felt that the show was a bit too long. I felt the Hardy stuff really knocked the stuffing out of the show, because like you said, there were some good matches on there. I really enjoyed, of course, if you look at the undercard, I really enjoyed the Bucks versus Jurassic Express. I thought that they did a solid good match. Young Bucks seem to be going more towards that heel turn, and they solidified that with Dynamite this week with the announcer getting the double super kick as well, which I thought was quite fun. But as well, I mean, the tag team championships, I still feel that Kenny Omega and Hangman have got the best storyline going in AEW right now. I thought Moxley and MJF was a lot of fun. They really told a good story in their match as well. And we mentioned the ladies as well. I think that they stole the show with their match. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So there were some great solid matches. I just felt it was a shame with that. But the thankful thing is that we said the Matt Hardy stuff of what happened. Thankfully, Matt is okay. And he did come out as well this week on Dynamite. And lovely as well that there was no actual storyline with this. He just come out and he said, look, we're sorry that this moment happened. We're sorry that this wasn't what we wanted it to be. Unfortunately, it happened, but everything's okay. I'm healthy, but I'm not able to compete right now. I'm going to take some time away, and when I'm healthy, I'm going to come back. Me and Sammy is finished. I'm going to try and go for a championship when I come back. It just felt sensible. It just felt a nice way just to kind of say, look, this happened, but we're going to move forward. Did you like this segment this week?
Yeah, I thought it was sensible. I think it was great just to see him sort of there connect with the audience really, and just admit that he's okay. But it was just a shame really it happened. But accidents happen in wrestling. It's a dangerous sport after all.
Absolutely, that's the thing. I mean, it's, as they said back in the old days, it's not ballet, so it's going to happen. So, I mean, let's talk about some things from this week in Dynamite then. And I mentioned already Kenny Omega and Hangman Page as being, in my opinion, currently the best storyline going in wrestling. Of course, they lost the tag team championships to FTR at the pay-per-view All Out, but we saw the 2 backstage segments that we had with Hangman Page originally with Tony Schiavone, kind of blaming himself. He said that his fault, what he did with the Young Bucks, he just felt himself like it was wrong that he did that. And he wants to, really build things back up with Kenny Omega, wants to go for those tag team championships again, where we saw Kenny Omega on the flip side later in the show with JR saying, well, if Hangman wants that, I think he should try and move past that. I've given a year to be a part of the tag team division. I was meant to be the guy carrying the company. I'm supposed to be the guy that's supposed to be the champion. And I just love these little character developments with these guys. It's really going in a nice direction. I think, like we said with Bayley and Sasha and on, the trigger is at the right time. I think that in the next pay-per-view, we need Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. We need the cleaner against, guy that screams cowboy shit. We need those guys going against each other at the next pay-per-view. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely time to kind of pay that off. I'm really enjoying the feud, or not enjoying the feud, enjoying the build-up, shall we say, of not knowing which one of them is going to be the bad guy. But yeah, really, really good. I think for me, the way it's probably going to go, I'm looking at Kenny Omega. I think Kenny Omega probably is going to be turning heel, and I do expect him to go on a singles run. I could see him challenging for the World Heavyweight title probably as early as maybe as early as November, maybe January. I think Kenny Omega as a singles wrestler, for me, excites me. When he was the cleaner in Japan, he was fantastic. He had such a good gimmick. He was so over. As a solo wrestler, I think he could be fantastic. But the way it's probably going, he's probably going to be in this stable with the Young Bucks, which I think a heel stable, which will be fun. It'll be fun to see. It'll be something different to the Dark Order and the other stables they have in AEW.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, of course, the Elite, they've had their work in New Japan, like you said, and they've been so successful with it before. I think that the Young Bucks as well, they've not had that opportunity to be tag team champions yet. You can see the frustrations kicking in those characters, seeing that Kenny Omega is not where he wanted to be as well. It feels the right time to pull the trigger, put those guys as the heels. Hangman Page has got it in him. He's so over as a babyface, so you keep him as that drinking. He's almost like that Steve Austin kind of character.
He's fun, isn't he?
He's great fun and has that lariat there. I think that this here with Omega and Hangman Page, I really think that one area of the card in AEW that lacks. I mean, people talk about the women's division. Let's talk about just under the main event. We have the people challenging for the championship. The people just underneath. There doesn't seem to be a defining area of single stars that when they win their match, they're automatically seen as the next number one contender. We usually need these battle royals to determine that. You finally will have these two single stars, Omega and Page. The winner of that would automatically, in my opinion, go straight into that championship picture against Moxley or Archer next. Would you think that would be kind of, how it would go?
It kind of makes sense. The thing with AEW, give them the credit, they've got a very good roster of people that can come into that spot, particularly people such as they've had Brian Cage, you've had obviously Lance Archer once again getting a title shot. And I think Page certainly, and Omega, any one of them two could be title challengers. I really want to see a Kenny Omega Moxley match again. Obviously, their last match was in controversy for the blood and guts and glory. But I think in a singles match, it could be something fun. So for me, if you've got Kenny Omega as a heel, Moxley as a face, for me, that is up there with one of the best matches probably you can see at the moment, really, in wrestling.
I agree. And the fun part about it as well, to do that match again, the roles, like you said, are reversed, because before Moxley was the heel and Omega was, squeaky clean babyface going into this hardcore environment. You'd have Kenny the cleaner heel and Moxley was just that badass face. I think that would be perfect to pull the trigger for that, perhaps early into next year, maybe when they do Revolution would be a great time to do it. So, I mean, it all sounds really exciting. And of course, Archer is the next challenger, as we say, with Moxley at the moment. And was you a fan seeing Archer, getting that opportunity once again against Jon Moxley?
Yeah, it's okay. We've seen it already. The problem is I find with it is these people get built up and then they do face Moxley and they always lose. Moxley seems to somehow survive with the belt, but it's another feud for Moxley. It's something fun, but I can't see Moxley losing to Archer. I'll put that on now. I think Moxley's going to retain already.
I would say at the moment I feel the same. I think what's kind of fun with this, hopefully they go down the Wrestle Kingdom method, because they've actually fought a Wrestle Kingdom this year, and they kind of had one of these death matches, hardcore style matches. I'd like to see that brought in for Full Gear. I think that would be quite a fun way to go with the championship match, because you would look and say that Moxley, yes, is in a home environment, but against Lance Archer, who's clearly he is a monster, quite literally. I think that would be a fun environment to put those two in that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it could be fun. I think in ring it'll be great. I'm just interested to see what the storyline around it will be, basically, or how they build it up. I think Jake the Snake is a great addition to Lance Archer. He's still a fantastic talker, and I think it's great to see Jake Roberts obviously in such a high spot on AEW TV, really.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the big part here, and this is what we've, one of the biggest talking points of the whole week in wrestling generally. Of course, Kip Sabian wanted his best man for his wedding, of course, with Penelope Ford, and we had a couple of joke people that were actually introduced, and then we finally got the actual person who was actually debuting, the best man, Miro, aka, of course, was Rusev in WWE. Absolutely took the limelight perfectly. It was a big surprise, I felt. He absolutely lapped it up. He made sure that people were chanting his name. You saw how happy he was to be there. You couldn't help but smile along with seeing him there. It was so nice to see. And then he kind of, politely, he gave it to WWE, saying where they can stick that brass ring. And I feel that we've got some exciting times ahead with Miro in AEW. I think that this, for some feeling here in me, we could turn and say Rusev was a mid-car in WWE. I just have a feeling this is going to be a big deal. And WWE is going to probably regret this in time, that someone like Miro has been released and now is able to do big things in AEW.
I think definitely. I think what a signing for AEW. What an acquisition. I think out of all the people that WWE released, he was probably one of the highlights or one of the top picks. So, great to see him back on his feet, particularly after the COVID he had earlier in the year. So, I'm happy to see him. I was a bit sort of underwhelmed with the place he's put in with the people he's aligned with, but he's that good. I think he's going to go up. He's clearly not going to be a mid-carder. I like the whole way the best man. I thought that was very well played and very well worded. He certainly could give them a lift as well. I'm really hoping he comes in and has a bit of a tail. I want to see him go on a winning run. I really want to see him kind of build himself up as a heel everybody hates. I think the only problem I had with kind of the promo was 1 minute you've got him here, I'm a heel, I hate the fans, all this sort, and next minute he's slagging off WWE, which if you're going to slag off WWE, that's a babyface move. For me, that didn't really work. I don't know what you thought of that, Steve.
I suppose, for him, it's his moment. He's sort of taking that part. He can just say what he wants, gets that frustration off his chest. It kind of feels very babyface, especially amongst an AEW audience. But it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen going forward after this. I suppose now he's got that off his chest. Where's the direction afterwards? But it's going to be interesting with Miro. And, of course, his contract details have come out via Fightful, which is interesting to know as well. He has actually signed a deal which is more than a year with AEW as well. He's going to have the ability to do some independent shows as well amongst the US, but non-televised companies, so we can rule out Impact Wrestling and other companies like that. He won't be able to appear for them, but one company he will be able to appear for is New Japan Pro Wrestling. That really excites me, the idea that we could find Miro in the Tokyo Dome, hopefully at some point, maybe even in January. I'm really excited, the idea of the likes of Naito, Okada, those sort of people. I mean, would you be excited to see Miro in the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, I can't say I watch much Japan, but I'm sure with them, I've heard of them wrestlers. I'm sure it would be great. I think the biggest thing is ultimately it's a positive. At least he's gone from this negative situation and turned it round, and he's now back into work, which I think fair play to him. I really hope this is a success, because I always enjoyed his work in WWE, and I think with this new character, I think he's really got a chance now to be what he wasn't in WWE, like a main eventer potentially.
I think so as well. I really feel that I don't know, there's something about this. I feel that moment we watched on Dynamite, we're going to be looking back at that in a few years' time and going, that was something that was special. Almost, it made me feel like, when Jericho joined WWE, it just felt like that important, and you felt like the tide is going to turn with this and something interesting is going to come along. But time will tell. We'll have to see if it works out for him, and we do wish him all the best here from SCW. Of course, it's great to see Miro back on our screens on a weekly basis. But one other thing that I thought was quite interesting as well was the start of the show. We saw Chris Jericho and MJF, and both kind of, bigging each other up after disappointments at the pay-per-view, only to turn around at the other, calling each other a loser and all the rest of this. Now, I don't know about you. I don't think we're going to get in the near future, but because the last time they did this about 6 or 7 months ago. But when they are together, they are magic. I really want to see Jericho versus MJF at some point down the line. Would you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's AEW's answer to The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for me. I think two dream wrestlers, obviously both fantastic on the microphone. Two of probably the best talkers in the industry at the moment as well. I just can't wait to see it somewhere. But I think maybe next year's the time to do it, really, rather than sort of now. I mean, now's too soon. So I think you've got to start rebuilding MJF following his loss this past Saturday. And he's clearly got something going on with Wardlow. That's going to probably be a singles feud quite soon, I think. So, but it's nice that they touched on that whole potential feud really for me on this week's Dynamite. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, MJF in just general is just gold every time he's on the
Yeah.
TV. How we can have that much talent at that age? It's like a veteran, but literally he's still so young and wise beyond his years. But yeah, literally the moment we're firing the campaigners and having that moment with Wardlow, it just kind of felt like something will happen with them down the line. That feels like the more immediate feud. But I mean, something with Jericho long term. They're both heels at the moment as well. You'd want one of them perhaps more on the babyface kind of role by then. Perhaps Jericho maybe he's just gone. Probably can do the babyface and still be a bit whiny as well at the same time. But yeah, I mean, you said you got those fans. I kind of feel it has that kind of Steve Austin cut angle 2001, kind of trying to please the Vince McMahon kind of fight. Maybe they wouldn't please Vince McMahon, let's be fair, but maybe Tony Khan's Tony Khan's in that position. But if we're going for the throwback there, that's what was going on back then. But I really think with that there's certainly some exciting stuff that could go forward with those two, and I really, really do want to see it. So this is a campaign. Actually, we're starting our own campaign here on SCW. We want to see Jericho versus MJF somewhere down the line. But Jericho, in the meantime, seems to be going down the tag team championship run. Him and Jake Hager actually defeated Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss in a no DQ match this week, declaring themselves in the tag team championship picture. Now, I'm going to just throw something out here, George, because I don't want to talk too negatively about things that are going on in booking. And I thought AEW had a very solid show. I think this was one of the best Dynamites I've seen this week, but this was the one negative for me. What about Santana and Ortiz that are meant to be in the circle? They've just overlooked them. It's almost like, well, they're not going for the belts. We're the guys at the top of this stable. Forget them. What's going on with Santana and Ortiz? Why can't I be the ones representing the tag team division for the inner circle?
Yeah, slight error there, isn't it? Unfortunately, I do agree with you on the points you made. Yeah, for me, Jericho and Jake Hager as a tag team, I'm not really excited by it. I think the money really in the tag team division is FTR versus Young Bucks. Although both of them are probably going to be heels now, that's kind of for me the money match really. But it gives Jericho something to do. Clearly, following this Saturday where he put over Orange Cassidy, it's nice that he's mixing with loads of different talent and he's putting each talent he mixes with over, which is quite good. But yeah, I'm not too excited about it, particularly if these two win the belt. I wouldn't be a fan of that because particularly AEW, they've got some more fantastic wrestlers in tag teams already. I think that should be getting pushed instead of Jericho and Hager, really.
Absolutely. I mean, particularly, you look at like the Lucha Brothers who have got a bit of dissension this week. I hope that doesn't lead into something, too long term at the moment. I want them to keep themselves together. But Butcher and the Blade, we mentioned Santana Ortiz, Best Friends, SCU, so many teams there.
I think that whole sort of Lucha Brothers thing, that's going to lead to a match, isn't it? You can see, particularly the dissension and stuff. Yeah, I'd like it if they were sort of a tag team again regularly. I think the problem is, ever since the Lucha Brothers have come to sort of AEW, particularly Pentagon Jr., I think he's not really been as good as he was in Impact, really. In Impact, he was so good with the subtitles and the promos and stuff. I think if he is a singles wrestler again, I'd quite like to see that, really. I think he was great as a singles wrestler, moving on.
Yeah, maybe they need to. Maybe because they have too many teams, you could argue. Maybe it's a good thing to have those. They're two very talented guys, Phoenix and Pentagon. Like you say, they could do so much and they can bring stuff to the singles division as well. So maybe that's why they're teasing that, maybe. And it certainly is an interesting thought and theory. And we'll have to wait and see in the coming weeks with that. But FTR, just to finish off on AEW this week so we can go on to NXT and Raw. FTR, the new tag team champions with Tully Blanchard. I'm loving the dynamic with those there. They've now got the championship belts. Like you said there, potentially they could have something with the Young Bucks somewhere down the line. Jurassic Express seems to be the early program they're going to be going with. It's all excitement going forward with FTR.
Yeah, it's great to see them win the belt. I think they've been brought in for a purpose. The fact they've got the belt now, it was refreshing to see them win the belt. Really like Tully Blanchard. I think his promos have been excellent. I like the might work of FTR as well. I'm really happy. I think this further strengthens the AEW tag team division.
Absolutely, indeed. Let's go on to NXT then, shall we? Finn Balor is the brand new NXT champion, defeating Adam Cole this week in what was a very good match indeed. I know you actually wrote to me saying that you thought this was a really good match.
Yeah, it was superb. I was really impressed with them. I think the time they made it credible, and I really like the way that there was no sort of silliness after. There was nobody interfering. There was no sort of cheap win. I really think it gives the title credit, really.
Absolutely. Even Adam Cole was graceful in defeat and holding up the Too Sweet and all sorts. So, yeah, it was really good there. But I do have a couple of questions, though, that come with this. And first off, actually a bit of news report that's come out today, thanks to Cultaholic, who actually I've got this information from. But apparently Finn Balor has come out and said that the Demon Gimmick may not be something that we're going to see much of in the future. Apparently, it's something that started on a feud that came into Japan. It got bigger than what it was meant to. It led to him where he was with a chainsaw at one point. I think we remember that with a famous NXT NXT TakeOver, and kind of lost direction with what the Demon was meant to represent, was kind of Finn Balor's feelings with this. Interestingly, I really found that very interesting when I read that today, and I wondered your thoughts on it, because I was a big fan of the Demon character, and I thought that really gave Balor another layer.
Yeah, for me, I think it's something we may not get in NXT. I think it is a main roster gimmick. I think it's a bit like the Undertaker at WrestleMania. It should be saved for big shows. I'd be amazed if we don't ever see the Demon again. I actually think eventually we are going to get Finn Balor back on the main roster. I think this is he's doing some great work down in NXT. I know he's got the belt at the moment, but for me, I think that the Demon will come back, and I think it'll be on the main roster. I just don't see him, unfortunately, Demon in NXT. But they're clever, really. They don't have the Demon there every single week, because the minute you use it week after week, it sort of loses its magic, as what's happened to the Fiend now, really. Similar, really.
Absolutely. No, you're right there. I mean, sometimes less is more, and they really use that for special occasions when they do, and when they find the right appropriate time, like you said, maybe it's a WrestleMania, maybe it's a SummerSlam. You know, those are perhaps the times that maybe it could be brought back. But one other question I wanted to ask you about this. Now, I may be being a bit cynical here, but Finn Balor's 39 years old. It's the third brand, developmental brand, I should say here. Now, of course, Finn Balor's gone back there to be, you know, in the Wednesday night war of ratings there. But does that kind of put a question of NXT kind of losing a bit of its identity? Because, like, they're supposed to be the up-and-coming people that are supposed to be the future WrestleMania main eventers on Raw and SmackDown. But yet we have someone that's, you know, almost a 20-year veteran who's carrying the NXT Championship.
Yeah, for me, I didn't realise he was that age. So fair play. I think, I get it. The problem is with it is ultimately Finn obviously got destroyed in his last WWE run. The last match was against the Fiend. He got totally buried and stuff. It's something new. He does give that lift though. He does have that exposure. He does have that big time feel, but clearly it hasn't made any impact on the ratings really as such. But it's okay. I think it'll be good to use him to elevate other wrestlers. I think the thing with it is, for me, I think they probably should have had Ciampa in this spot instead of Balor or sort of Cole in hindsight, really. But I think Finn Balor in ring's great. His promos are good. He can play heel or face really, really quickly. He can switch between both. And he's a great addition to NXT. I think despite his age, I think he's still relevant. And I still think he definitely has that big time feel, which I think is kind of, they need that in NXT. They can't just have people that are new and green, so to speak, coming up to WWE or before WWE as such.
I agree with a lot of your points there. I mean, I think the key one you make there, that Finn Balor is relevant. And I think that's the what brings him. He can be anywhere on the card. He can be someone that's opener, he can be middle, he can be top. And it doesn't hurt him wherever he is. He's that kind of character. And like you say, it's important to have people that are not just green in NXT, someone that can help those younger talents elevate themselves. And Finn Balor is such a great coach. And I believe he was a helper of Becky Lynch back in the day as well. So Finn Balor's got a lot of experience there. And maybe one day, yes, he will be back on Raw and SmackDown. But like you say, he's there for NXT right now. Has it made a big difference to some of the ratings on the head-to-heads? Maybe not. But do you know what? When you look at them separately, this week, AEW actually got themselves over 1 million viewers this week. NXT over 800, I believe it's 829,000, which is both a lot more than what they would have if they were going head-to-head. I think it shows here that these guys need to go separate nights. I think it's obvious now that it's good for everyone. It's good for wrestling and it's good for fans that these shows are not against head-to-head anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree with you. I think you're spot on with the points you make there.
Absolutely. And just to say one more point on it, Jericho and MJF both said you're welcome at the same time on a tweet when that rating came out. So there's something there. There is something there, but we'll have to wait and see where it leads to. But quickly touch on Rhea Ripley and Mercedes Martinez there on steel cage match there. Solid match this week between those two. But there was some rumours that Mercedes Martinez might be going to Monday nights. There's also talks that maybe Rhea Ripley could be going for a championship match with Io Shirai down the line. What were your thoughts with the cage match? And do you agree with both potential future directions?
So we'll start with the cage match. Cage match was fantastic. I think they really got the crowd involved, like in sort of the interaction you could sort of hear. And I think I really enjoyed it. I think both wrestlers came over with a lot of credit. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the finish was clever. I really enjoyed it. And I really like the way that Rhea Ripley won it. It's a clever move. Moving on to your next point, Mercedes is going to Raw, I believe, if she's going to be under a certain gimmick, for a certain stable. We'll probably talk about later. I think that at the moment that's pretty likely, I think. And Rhea Ripley, yep, I think she does have to she should be challenging for the title. Let's bear in mind that she was on WrestleMania this year with the NXT title. She had that exposure in front of the whole world. They've underbooked her really badly since, and she's now on the up again. For me, she needs to go back to what she was sort of the early part of this year, where she was one of the sort of most over things in NXT. People were sort of really excited to see her. I think if she's given a chance, her and Io Shirai will be good. it's almost a battle of baby faces. It's a hard one to pick, but Ripley for me should be going up to WWE before certain other people are probably at the moment. Before certain other people are going to be called up, really.
Very interesting
She's
point.
she's one of the top people in NXT to go up, really. I think I'm surprised that she's not up there already, based on her WrestleMania exploits this year, really.
I agree with you. I think that Rhea Ripley has got it. I think that she is potentially the star. I think it was some sort of thing I saw in the WWE documentary. Someone quoted saying that the only thing that would hold Rhea Ripley back is, I don't know where I saw that actually. It's not a WWE documentary, but someone said somewhere that the only thing that's going to stop Rhea Ripley is the booking side of things. She's that talented. She's that good. I'm not sure where I saw that, but someone who said it and they made a fantastic point when they did, because Rhea Ripley, the sky is the limit. And literally, I think that she's a potential main eventer for WrestleMania. I think the women will do it again one day. And I think she could be one person that would be in that category. She's got the ability to be, someone like Charlotte Flair, multi-time, tens-time champion of Raw and SmackDown. I reckon she's got it. But let's go on to Monday Night Raw then, shall we? And one thing, to go on to really a lot of the points together on Raw, there were a couple of things I enjoyed this week, but the things that I kind of felt with overall, that the ratings are not getting good with Raw. It seems to be going up on every other show, but Raw seems to be suffering. Is Raw becoming the hardest show to watch each and every week?
Yeah, for me, I think it is. I think the clear lack of sort of direction, the way that the scripts have been changed with minutes almost, and just the way that it's the same thing. For me, Raw is rematch city every single week. It's the same matches again and again and again, and it's just it's a shame, really. I think the problem is they got too much TV time, and I think they really, really struggle to build up anything kind of long term, it seems.
Yeah, I agree with you. It feels like watching Raw at the moment, I feel like I'm watching Universe Mode. If anyone plays the WWE games on the 2Ks and stuff, they realise that to have a rivalry to last, they have to do the same match week after week after week. And it feels like that's what we get on TV. It feels like someone's got their job by doing the Universe Mode. But literally, I kind of feel that it's the same thing. The storylines have long past their expiry date that we're seeing on a weekly basis. There's some good stuff. I like what they're doing with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. I thought that was interesting this week. I like what they're doing with Mysterio. I think that he's doing a great job as well. And we will touch on him separately in a minute. But things like, Angel Garza and Andrade, why isn't that breakup happening now? And you look at always the Hurt Business seem to be taking on the baby faces. Now, Cedric Alexander, thankfully, has turned heel this week. And I thought that was a real positive. I really enjoyed that moment of the show. What were your thoughts with Cedric? I think it's great. We could get a new dynamic with this character.
I enjoyed it. For me, I would love to have seen Ricochet and Cedric both turn. I think that would have been a real nice addition, but I'm enjoying it. I think Cedric was good. I think the Hurt Business really are one of the main focal points of Raw, so to speak. But yeah, it was good. It's good to get the payoff finally, because they've been building this for a while. It was a bit obvious, but I'm glad they've done this now, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where they kind of go next with it. For me, the Hurt Business is it's a great stable, but there's only one real star in that stable. I think that's probably Lashley, really. He's the one for me that's going to be should be up there, really challenging Drew and people like that, really.
Absolutely, indeed. And like I say, it's good to get the payoff then. Hopefully we're going to see the repeat of all those matches going forward. Although you did say earlier on we could be getting Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews one more time. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But what other things that we don't look about Raw? Let's not talk about Raw Underground. We've buried it week after week anyway. But
there's still no payoff, isn't there? Without, just before we go any further, with that, there's still no payoff. We're weeks in now. We still don't know why Shane's there, why it's happened. And I just don't really get what the point of it is. To me, it just seems to be there for the sake of it. The coolest part's probably the security guard outside that has no name so far still, as far as I'm aware. And I'm just not a fan of it, really. I just don't see how this was meant to be brought in to get the ratings up, really. But let's move forward.
No, totally, I agree with you 100%. But the other one is Retribution. And now this week they have spoken for the first time, Retribution. They now finally have that message out there. But I'm going to be a bit controversial with this. I feel like I'm taking a negative turn immediately before giving it a chance here. But I found that the stuff was generic.
Generic. Yeah, for me, it's all too late. It's almost like going to the train station and then seeing the train pull away. They should have really been doing this sort of when they took over the truck, as I said. The problem with the stable, as we said last week, is there's just inconsistencies. 1 minute there's 12 of them, next minute there's 5 of them. I didn't mind the promo. It was a typical WWE promo. They did the best they could. And WWE have done not a particularly good job of keeping some of the members hidden, if that's people who's under the mask. I think it's pretty clear now that we know 3 or 4 people already, which is a shame. And the people that got under it, I do feel sorry for. I think some of them, they're very talented people, but for me, the way they've been treated, the way Retribution have been booked by running away from stuff like children down a park on a Saturday night, it doesn't give them much hope. And I think the ultimate crime really in all this is you've still got the ninjas running around with similar gimmick and similar attire. For me, the only way Retribution's really going to go anywhere is if they, at given time, we really need to start seeing them actually have feuds. There has to be a payoff and an explanation as well for what they're doing. But it was good to hear them speak. I just felt the promo was sort of a bit lost in translation, really. It just seemed to be them ranting, really.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, was it felt like we've heard it before, lost in translation. Like you said, it's arguably too late. But I will keep giving Retribution the time of day, because I like to hope that they can still recover this, because if they can do the reveals right, even if it's a bit of a shaky start, if they can get the middle and end right, we'll remember the finish at the end. Usually that's with storylines we remember the start, but we also remember the end. So hopefully WWE can turn that one around, because if they continue to things, like you said, the people under those masks that we are aware of are very talented. And like you said, they've just not been given that good of material and good direction of what they're meant to be doing in the storylines. It's not the people themselves. So fingers crossed that they can actually turn this around, because like those summer names that we've been linked under there, it looks like that those could be really exciting additions to the roster when they're revealed.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we look at it, like, let's say the obvious, like Dijakovic, yeah, he was the one that spoke on Raw. That's obvious. I think you can see that. We're looking at sort of the person as well. Mercedes Martinez was the first person in that vignette as well. She spoke. She's a fantastic wrestler. Far too good for this gimmick. We're looking at also Mia Yim. She's there every time. You can kind of spot that. And then you've kind of got the sort of the other person, which I'm not going to name because I know you don't want to know, but. For people that do want to know, I think you can go and find sort of Dave Meltzer and stuff, and that'll probably tell you. But that person's underwhelming. I really hope that the other people they've got, what they're going to have to do is how they're going to explain them having 12 members one week and then 5 the next. That's kind of how WWE are going to have to try and explain to me, which I just don't see them doing. But it's okay. Let's see what they do with this. But I do worry that this is going to go nowhere, really. I think the stable could be finished before sort of maybe Survivor Series, really, which is probably the whole reason why they've been set up, really, was just to do Survivor Series, both and bring people up.
That could be the case there. I mean, if they're all NXT people, the Survivor Series could be the direction of what they're trying with this. And it could be interesting if they can make it work, but they need to make it work. And like you said, the number of people, they're very talented there, and certainly could do some big things. But we'll have to wait and see how well they will play. But someone that's also expected to do big things, and has actually already been seen as a top babyface on Raw, which is why I want to talk to you about it quickly today, is Dominik Mysterio. Now, he's closed off Raw this week as well there. And I quite enjoyed the Murphy getting completely annihilated with canes by the entire Mysterio family. Do you see Dominik Mysterio as can be potential to be a top babyface on Raw?
He's very good. I don't know whether he can be a top main eventer as of yet. I think he's obviously bypassed NXT on the basis of his family name as such. But I'm enjoying the work. I'm enjoying this storyline. I think it's gone on quite a long time now. I like the payoff. It was great to see the Mysterios get some revenge. For me, I don't really trust WWE not to screw this up. I think we're going to see Dominik Mysterio as a heel. One of the family members is going to be a heel. That's pretty clear, the way that they're kind of building it, the way that things are done. It depends on how they book him. For me, I'd like to see Dominik Mysterio get this feud done. If he's going to turn heel, do the heel turn on Ray and whatever. And then obviously I'd send him actually back to NXT really eventually, because I think he's still so new to the business. You don't want to overexpose him, but the fact he's in main events already, would you say he's ready to be the main event of Raw already?
I wouldn't say he was ready. I think it's still early days for the main event sort of segment of Raw. But what I would say is that I'd like him to actually be as a tag team with Ray and actually win the tag belts, have that experience, have that time, in, guidance under Ray a bit more in the ring, just to get those baby steps. And then maybe at WrestleMania they can have that match, maybe like you said, and then after that maybe he can clear on a different direction, a different path. But I think he's got what it takes to be a mid card at this point. I mean, he's definitely gone leaps and bounds above certain talents that are there. I think he's got something for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing is, I think that the only danger you got with this is that WWE don't do an ECW type ECW type storyline where, like the one where they had the Sandman and sort of his kid turned and joined with Raven. They've got to be careful they don't do that, because you love that, do you?
I did back in the day. I did.
So it may not be that level, because obviously Dominic's a lot taller than Sandman's kid, obviously, but a bit older. But it might be something like that. I think the thing is, the way that they're doing is, it's great to see Dominik there. He's impressed me so far. I think all of the parties in this sort of feud/stable have done the best they can, but it has gone on for many months now. We've already had Rey Mysterio's eye out, and we've already had them sort of face each other in various forms and methods. For me, they need to get this feud done, pay it off, and then let's see what Dominik can do sort of when he's left on his own, really.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it's going to play out. But certainly, I think that we think there's going to be a bright future there, regardless of Dominik Mysterio, whatever direction they seem to take with him. So it certainly could be interesting. But one other quick note there, Ivar of Viking Raiders looks like he's injured this week, and it could be quite serious by the look of it. It could be surgery required. Still not full details yet, but of course he did hold the dreaded X up after doing a suicide dive through the ropes this week during that tag match against the Hurt Business. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with Ivar going forward. But I mean, that's a lot of Monday Night Raw there. So quickly, NXT UK is coming back next week. I'm really looking forward to it coming back. It's going to be on BT Sports. The Heritage Cup is going to be coming in, which apparently is going to be a 8-man tournament. It's going to be based over 6 3-minute rounds, and they're 2 out of 3 falls matches. So the first 2 falls in those 6 3-minute rounds wins and progresses forward. And this is going to be like a new championship going forward in NXT UK. What are your thoughts on this? Because this is something very different, something very unique.
Yeah, I'm excited by it. I think this has got good potential. It's great to see NXT UK back. I like this whole format. The fact we're going to get Nigel McGuinness on the commentary as well, I'm excited to see. What about you? What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's really exciting. I think that, I mean, they did something like this before with Sid Scala, I think his name is, before against
Savvy Sid Scala.
Earlier in the year they did that match where they did sort of like this sort of British rules, if you want, and I think that they've obviously felt it was successful enough that they can bring this in and make it something of it. I think what's also interesting about it is that 7 names have been announced and an 8th hasn't. My real teasing idea is that Pete Dunne could be that 8th guy coming in.
Yeah, it has to be. Clearly, the whole good work he's done winning the tag team belt, the British Bulldog type feeling now, so it would make sense to have him on NXT UK, particularly why sort of the whole transportation and stuff in travelling to countries is just so hard. Yeah, for me, you have to put him in this spot. When you look at the other names as well, you've got like people such as Alexander Wolf, obviously been on NXT before. You look at people like Joseph Connors, he's always been fantastic. He was a former Progress champion, if I'm not mistaken. He was also a great wrestler in ICW. And you've also got people from like sort of like Noam Dar that were on British Boot Camp. For me, potential.
We just lost you at the last second there, sadly, George. But we got all the names there. But like you said, okay. A lot of them have a lot of potential.
Yeah, that was it. It was just the potential to have classic matches will be there. Obviously, they've only announced, as you said, the 7 names. Out of the 7, there's quite a few wrestlers there that I'm looking forward to seeing, particularly the fact that it's going to be in our country. I'm quite excited by it, really. Or my country, shall we say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that it's going to be very exciting to see these guys back in NXT UK, and they have a lot to offer. And obviously, as well, they've got a takeover to go towards as well. Walter hopefully should be back as well. What will be the direction with the NXT UK Championship? If Trent's in that, is Tyler Bate going for the belt again? What about Eli Dragunov? There's so many great things. The women's direction as well. Tony Storm could be back. So much things I'm looking forward to with NXT UK. I really miss that brand. So I'm looking forward to seeing its new setup in the BT studios as well. I think it should be a lot of fun. But I think we've more or less covered everything today, George. Is there anything you'd like to touch on before we close off the show this week?
No, I just want to thank the people that have tuned in and watched and listened. I really appreciate all the views and all the comments really underneath, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we are very grateful for that here on SCW. And like I say, leave a comment in. We love to interact here on YouTube, so please interact. And of course, for those listening on podcast form as well, thank you very much as well. You can follow us on those, or you can come to the YouTube channel and subscribe on there. And then you're notified. If you hit the bell, you know every time a video comes up, it could be anything. It could be on AEW, Impact, WWE. You know straight away that video is there. You can go and check it out. And there's more videos going to be coming out over the weekend. Ask SCW, the Q&A will be coming up. So lots to look forward to. And there'll be more videos coming out next week as well. But that's all from us anyway this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It's been George. It's been myself, Steve. And you've been listening to This Week in Wrestling, Episode 8. Take care. Have yourselves a great week. And we'll be back next week. Take care.